I'll introduce you to a concept called neuro-linguistic programming, right? It's just a model of information. We'll also learn about emotional intelligence, empathy, and the DISC model and things like that. And then I'll bring it all together and give you some tips and tricks in terms of like email communication, presentations, and all that sort of stuff. A lot of that part will be more tip of the iceberg. But these foundations, if you can actually internalize them and understand it, will be the foundations of truly effective communication. All right, so the brain, right? Our brain is made up of three major parts. Folks are familiar with the brain stem. Some people call it the reptilian part. It's that prehistoric brain, fight, flight, or freeze. Right? Ancestrally, pretty much all mammals or animals have some sort of version of that, and that developed a long time ago. And when we evolved as mammals, there's the second part, the mammalian brain. One of the key parts is this thing called the amygdala, right? And that's responsible for our emotions. And if you actually think about what emotions are, it's a precursor to fighting, like anger or all those types of very intense feelings. That's basically you getting ready to fight. Right? Flight. When you're anxious and you're nervous, you want to get out of here. It's just basically a precursor for flight. And freeze, it's kind of a very similar one where you just kind of sit there. Right? So all these emotions were meant to keep animals safe because in certain contexts, in certain situations, they wanted animals, or the evolution wanted us to understand, okay, this is a situation where we should probably be prepared to fight. This is a situation where we should probably be prepared to run away. And this is a situation where, well, some animals just kind of played dead and sat there, right? Now, the most recent development is this thing called the neocortex, right? That's what makes humans humans, and that's the rational part. And we all know that all humans are rational, right? Well, not exactly. Oftentimes they're irrational because of that middle section. There's something called this amygdala hijack, where you can't even get up to this top layer and talk to this rational person because the emotions are just arising and erupting, right? And you've probably had those conversations with people where you get into a heated argument, heated debate. They're talking about something totally different, and they're so intense about it that you can't talk a rational word into that. So just by going and understanding those three parts, I want you to take a look at some of the conversations, some of the arguments, some of the conflicts that you've had. It's like, am I actually talking to the human part of that person? Or am I talking to more the prehistoric mammalian part that is rooted in emotion? And if you're trying to use rationality and logic, talking to that middle part doesn't exactly work, right? So just knowing the context in terms of the person and the communication that you're having will allow you to have a little bit more fruitful conversation and allow you to get through. The whole point of it is that the bottom layer, that reptilian system, and then the emotional layer is part of your unconscious. Right? There are things that you do habitually that you don't even think about. If there's a loud noise, you will just automatically jump and probably look at it. Right? That we were pre-programmed biologically to do that. But oftentimes, well, if there are certain types of shadows, certain people coming towards you or whatever, based on the context, there might be a different sort of rationale for you to want to either fight, flight, or just extend yourself and provide open arms to other people. So these are the foundationals, right? Getting to that. And here's a few quotes that summarize some of the conversations that we'll have, some of the tools and tricks. So some people just speak for the sake of speaking, right? That's kind of the quote from Plato. And the one in the middle is one that for the next little bit we'll kind of contextualize. So oftentimes the communication is based on the model of your world. And it's not your world, it's the other person's world. Because each one of us are so unique, each one of us have different experiences. Some of us moved across the countries, across the world, grew up in different areas, and that context shapes us. And without having a bit of understanding of that, then you're communicating with something that won't be able to receive the communication. And communication is really what the listener does, right? You can say whatever you want, but unless the listener actually interprets that in a way that finds it meaningful in order to have the results that you want, then communication didn't really happen. You were just kind of projecting and providing information and insights, right? So let me do a little exercise. Imagine a picnic in your head, right? The image of it. What's in that scene? Does anybody have like a blanket, right? Anybody have kind of the red and white kind of checkered blanket, that specific one? Anybody have a picnic basket, right? Some sandwiches in there and all that. Is everyone outside? Under a tree, maybe? Does anybody have KFC? Mine does. Because whenever we went on a picnic, my parents didn't want to make sandwiches. We went out to KFC, got a bucket, and that was our picnic. Every single picnic. I thought every picnic had KFC because that's just how I grew up. So understanding your model of the world, everyone is slightly different. Even though everyone understands picnic, we have this similarly different version of what picnic is, but not exactly the same. So when I say the word negotiation, what do you think about? Well, some people, it's two people at a table trying to butt it out and trying to go for whatever they want to win. Some people are more like, no, win-win. Let's all be collaborative. Let's figure out a way to do it. And it's based on the context. So if you approach a conversation and you have different context than the other person on the other side, then sometimes the conversation goes differently. And oftentimes, even the context is shaped by the words that you use, right? Who is familiar with the word try? Yoda was right. Do or do not. There is no try. Exerting a lot of effort without actually doing anything. You know that person who, I'll try to show up. Yeah, they're not coming, right? So oftentimes, doing something as eliminating that word from your vocabulary can be game-changing. You won't try to do anything. You will do it or you won't. Right? There's always extenuating circumstances that might cause you not to be able to do it, but you make a decision and you do it or you don't. Eliminating the word try from your vocabulary will do a lot. Even something as simple as have to versus get to. I have to go to school. I have to go to work. I have to do my assignments. I have to do all this sort of stuff. Who here has ever said something similar to that? Yep, we've all done that. But what if, similar to eliminating try, you change the word from have to get to? I get to go to school. I get to go to work. I get to do my assignments. I'm so privileged to be living in Canada, a first world country with access to Medicare and clean water and all those sorts of things, that I have the freedom and flexibility to be able to have and submit assignment that I have to study for 18 hours in advance in order to get a mark, which billions of people around the world would not even have a thought of having that luxury to do so. How does changing something from have to get to change your perspective? Right? So simple things like that is taking that neuro-linguistic programming part, where neuro is brain, linguistic is language, and programming makes the assumption that you're kind of like a computer. You've been programmed based on the words and context and all these experiences that you've had in order to make you, you. And everyone has been programmed in a slightly different way. So knowing and understanding all those nuances, whether it be gained through culture, whether it's through personal experience, even through any sort of diversity things, through gender, through being a middle child, that sort of thing, that all colors your context.